Good evening. This is All India Radio. I'm Naresh Mago, and with me is Manoj Singh Rana with the evening news. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in Gujarat Gaurav Abhiyan program at Vadodara, inaugurates and lays foundation stones of development projects worth over 21,000 crore rupees. Today, India is making plans and taking decisions, keeping in mind the needs and aspirations of women, says Prime Minister. Stresses rapid development and empowerment of women is synonymous with rapid development of 21st century India. Agniveers to get 10% reservation in Defence Ministry's job vacancies and in Central Armed Police Forces and Assam Rifles. Polio immunization 2022 to begin from tomorrow in 11 states and union territories. Flood situation in Assam stays grim. Prime Minister assures of all support. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar chairs Parliamentary Consultative Committee meeting on Sri Lanka. Says there was unanimous support to stand with our neighbour in this difficult time. India and European Union relaunch negotiations for India-EU Free Trade Agreement after over 8 years. 2 people killed and several trapped in a Gurudwara in Afghanistan after 2 blasts rocked Kabul this morning. New Delhi expresses concern, says closely monitoring the situation. Indian women's hockey team beats Argentina 4-3 in FIH Women's Hockey Pro League tournament at Rotterdam. And in Indonesia Open Super Badminton Tournament semi-final match, India's HS Prannoy loses to China's Zhao Chun Peng 16-21, 15-21. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said India is making plans and taking decisions today, keeping in mind the needs and aspirations of women. Participating in Gujarat Gaurav Abhiyan program at Vadodara in Gujarat today, he said rapid development of women and their empowerment is equally important for the rapid development of the 21st century India.
21वीं सदी के भारत के तेज विकास के लिए महिलाओं का तेज विकास, उनका सशक्तिकरण उतना ही जरूरी है। आज भारत महिलाओं की आवश्यकताओं, उनकी आकांक्षाओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए योजनाएं बना रहा है, निर्णय ले रहा है। सेना से लेकर खदानों तक हमारी सरकार ने महिलाओं के लिए अपनी पसंदीदा काम करने के लिए सारे रास्ते खोल दिए हैं।
Mr. Modi said that the government's plans and decisions are being taken keeping in mind the needs and aspirations of women.
सेना से लेकर खदानों तक हमारी सरकार ने महिलाओं के लिए अपनी पसंदीदा काम करने के लिए सारे रास्ते खोल दिए हैं। हमने महिलाओं के जीवन चक्र के हर पड़ाव को ध्यान में रखते हुए अनेक नई योजनाएं बनाई हैं। महिलाओं का जीवन आसान बने, उनके जीवन से मुश्किलें कम हो, उन्हें आगे बढ़ने के ज्यादा से ज्यादा अवसर मिले, ये हमारी सरकार की सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकताओं में से एक।
The Prime Minister inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of development projects worth 21,000 crore rupees digitally at Vadodara in Gujarat. This includes a series of railway projects worth more than 16,000 crore rupees. Mr. Modi reached the venue of Gujarat Gaurav Abhiyan program in Vadodara in an open vehicle amidst a grand welcome by thousands of people. He said these projects will give strength to the conception of India's development through Gujarat's development. The Prime Minister called the day as a day of mother worship. He started his day by seeking blessings from his mother, who entered her 100th year today. He dedicated to the nation the 357-kilometer-long New Palanpur-Madar section of dedicated freight corridor, gauge conversion of 166-kilometer-long Ahmedabad-Botad section, and electrification of 81-kilometer-long Palanpur-Meetha section. He also laid the foundation stone for redevelopment of Surat, Udhna, Somnath and Sabarmati stations, along with some other initiatives in the railway sector. These projects will help to lower logistic cost and boost industry and the agriculture sector in this region. Mr. Modi also laid the foundation stone of Gujarat Central University in Kundela village of Dabhoi Taluka near Vadodara. He also launched Mukhyamantri Matrashakti Yojana and Poshan Sudha Yojana to further improve maternal and child health in the state. Mr. Modi also distributed various welfare schemes to the beneficiaries on this occasion. Beneficiaries, Chief Minister Bhupendra Bhai Patel, Union and State Ministers, People's Representatives and other dignitaries were among those present on the occasion. Earlier in the day, the Prime Minister unveiled the redeveloped temple of Sri Kalika Mata at Pavagadh Hill in Panchmahal district. He also performed puja at the temple. Mr. Modi hoisted a dhwaj at full mast atop the shrine. He highlighted the importance of the moment today when after 5 centuries and even 75 years after independence, Dhwaj, the sacred flag, was hoisted atop the temple. He said this Shikhar Dhwaj is a symbol of the fact that centuries change, eras change, but the faith remains eternal. The sanctum sanctorum of this grand Mahakali temple has been made of gold. It is one of the oldest temples in the region and attracts pilgrims in large numbers. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said this temple also symbolizes Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas. The Prime Minister said New Delhi is living in its ancient identity along with modern aspirations. Referring to the Ram temple in Ayodhya, Kashi Vishwanath Dham and Kedar Dham, the Prime Minister pointed out that the spiritual and cultural glory of India is being restored.
आज भारत के आध्यात्मिक और सांस्कृतिक गौरव पुनर्स्थापित हो रहे हैं। आज नया भारत अपनी आधुनिक आकांक्षाओं के साथ साथ अपनी प्राचीन धरोहर को, अपनी प्राचीन पहचान को भी उसी उमंग और उत्साह के साथ जी रहा है। हर भारतीय उस पर गर्व कर रहा है। हमारा ये आध्यात्मिक स्थल हमारी श्रद्धा के साथ साथ नई संभावनाओं के भी स्रोत बन रहे हैं। पावागढ़ में मां काली का मंदिर का पुनर्निर्माण हमारी इसी गौरव यात्रा का एक हिस्सा है।
Mr. Modi prayed to the Mother Goddess to bless him so that he continues to serve the people of the country with more energy, sacrifice and dedication.
Tomorrow morning, the Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation the main tunnel and 5 underpasses of the Pragati Maidan Integrated Transit Corridor project in Delhi. He will also address the gathering on the occasion. The Integrated Transit Corridor project is an integral part of the Pragati Maidan redevelopment project. The project has been built at a cost of more than 920 crore rupees. It is aimed to provide hassle-free and smooth access to the new world-class exhibition and convention centre being developed at Pragati Maidan. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today said Agniveers will get 10% reservation in the Defence Ministry's job vacancies. In a tweet, Mr. Singh said reservation for Agniveers meeting requisite eligibility criteria will be implemented in the Indian Coast Guard and Defence civilian posts and all the 16 defence public sector undertakings. He added this reservation would be in addition to the existing reservations for ex-servicemen. He further said the defence public sector undertakings will be advised to make similar amendments to their respective recruitment rules. Necessary age relaxation provision will also be made. He said that necessary amendments to relevant recruitment rules will be undertaken to implement these provisions. The Ministry of Home Affairs has decided to reserve 10% vacancies for recruitment in the Central Armed Police Forces and the Assam Rifles for Agniveers. In a tweet today, the Office of the Home Minister said the ministry has also decided to give 3 years age relaxation beyond the prescribed upper age limit to Agniveers for recruitment in the Central Armed Police Force and the Assam Rifles. It said for the first batch of Agniveers, the age relaxation will be for 5 years beyond the prescribed upper age limit. Polio immunization 2022 will begin from tomorrow in 11 states and union territories. The Union Health Ministry said that the first sub-national immunization day of 2022 for administering polio vaccine drops will start from tomorrow in 11 states and UTs, including Bihar, Chandigarh, Delhi, Gujarat, Haryana, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand and West Bengal. During this campaign, around 3 crore 9 lakh children below the age of 5 are targeted to be given polio drops through booths, house-to-house, mobile and transit teams. The government has also introduced the injectable inactivated polio virus vaccine to provide additional protection to children in its routine immunization program.
In Assam, the flood situation remains critical. Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma today visited the flood-affected areas in Kamrup district and assured all help to the affected people. The Chief Minister informed that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has assured support from the centre in the relief and rehabilitation work in the state. Mr. Modi spoke to Mr. Sarma this morning and expressed concern over the hardships being faced by the people of the state due to the natural calamity. About 19 lakh people have been affected in the floods in 2,930 villages. Over 1 lakh people have taken shelter in 373 relief camps. National Commission for Women, NCW, organized the final law review consultation on the Maternity Benefit Act 1961 and the 2017 amendment to review and analyze the legislation affecting women and recommend amendments to meet any lacunae, inadequacies and shortcomings. The NCW has also conducted one preliminary consultation and 5 regional-level consultations to relook the Act in order to formulate specific recommendations for amendments and enhancing the outreach of the legislation. Through this consultation, the Commission endeavoured to seek views, suggestions and opinions of experts and stakeholders from all over India. Some of the important suggestions made by the experts and stakeholders during the consultation were to extend the paternity leave so that the burden of raising the child is shared equally between both the parents, incentivizing employers, and sensitization of the corporate sector for employing more women workers. Over 196 crore COVID vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said over 14,99,000 vaccine doses were given to beneficiaries yesterday. A total of 13,216 new COVID cases were recorded in the last 24 hours, as several states and UTs are witnessing a surge in the cases. With the increase in cases, India's active caseload has increased to 68,108 and the recovery rate has declined to 98.63%.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Vietnamese counterpart Bu Thanh Son launched the joint logo for the celebration of 50 years of the India-Vietnam diplomatic relations. The logo was launched in an event at the sideline of the special ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting in New Delhi. The External Affairs Ministry said that the logo has been selected jointly by the two sides through a contest open for nationals of both the countries. The image represents long-standing friendship between India and Vietnam, symbolically through a peacock and a crane, the birds of national importance in the two countries. You're listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in Gujarat Gaurav Abhiyan program at Vadodara, inaugurates and lays foundation stones of development projects worth over 21,000 crore rupees. Today, India is making plans and taking decisions keeping in mind the needs and aspirations of women, says Prime Minister. Stresses rapid development and empowerment of women is synonymous with rapid development of 21st century India. Agni Veers to get 10% reservation in Defence Ministry's job vacancies and in Central Armed Police Forces and Assam Rifles. Polio immunization 2022 to begin from tomorrow in 11 states and union territories. Flood situation in Assam stays grim. Prime Minister assures of all support. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar chairs Parliamentary Consultative Committee meeting on Sri Lanka, says there was unanimous support to stand with our neighbour in this difficult time. India and European Union relaunch negotiations for India-EU free trade agreement after over 8 years. 2 people killed and several trapped in a Gurudwara in Afghanistan after 2 blasts rocked Kabul this morning. New Delhi expresses concern, says closely monitoring the situation. Indian women's hockey team beat Argentina 4-3 in FIH Women's Hockey Pro League tournament in Rotterdam. And In Indonesia Open Super Badminton Tournament semi-final match, India's HS Pranoy loses to China's Zhao Chunpeng 16-21, 15-21. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
कंपटीशन की अगर आप कर रहे हैं तैयारी, तो उनके लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर हम लाए हैं अभ्यास, एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम जिसमें आप पूछेंगे सवाल व्हाट्सएप नंबर 9289094044 पर, या फिर ईमेल करेंगे abhyas.airnews@gmail.com पर, और हमारे विशेषज्ञ देंगे इसका जवाब। आपका अभ्यास हमारा प्रयास।
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today chaired a parliamentary consultative committee meeting on the situation in Sri Lanka. After the meeting, in a tweet, he said a good discussion was held in a positive atmosphere on various issues and India's role. Dr. Jaishankar said there was unanimous support on the need to stand with our neighbour in this difficult time. After a 9-year lull, India and the European Union are to relaunch negotiations for the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Valdis Dombrovskis, Executive Vice President of the European Commission, have also announced the launch of negotiations for an Investment Protection Agreement and a Geographical Indicator GI Agreement at a joint event at the EU headquarters at Brussels. Among the most significant FTAs for India, as the EU is its second largest trading partner, India-EU merchandise trade registered an all-time high value of $116.36 billion in 2021-22, with a year-on-year growth of 43.5%. The Delhi visit of the European Commission President Ms. Ursula von der Leyen in April this year and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Europe accelerated the FTA discussions and helped in defining a clear roadmap for the negotiations. There will also be discussions on resolving the market access issues which are impeding the bilateral trade. The first round of negotiations for all the three agreements will be held from 27th June to 1st July in New Delhi. 2 people have died and several are trapped in a Gurudwara in Afghanistan's capital Kabul after 2 blasts rocked the city this morning. According to agency reports, the blasts took place near the 2 gates of Gurudwara Dashmesh Pita Sahib Ji, Karte Parwa, Kabul. Afghanistan's Interior Ministry spokesperson Abdul Nafi Thakur told this media 1 Sikh devotee and an Afghan guard perished in the blast. Meanwhile, India has expressed concern at the blast in Kabul. External Affairs Ministry spokesman Arindam Bagchi said India is closely monitoring the situation and is waiting for further details on the unfolding developments.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events is being organized by the government as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. To commemorate the occasion, as a Jan Utsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The next question of the Amrit Mahotsav quiz will be shared with the listeners on Monday, the 20th of June. And now, let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
भाग भाग रे भाग फिरंगी झांसी की रानी आई है भाल तिलक और हाथ खड़क दुर्गा है काली माई है.
In today's episode, we remember the legendary freedom fighter, Rani of Jhansi Lakshmibai, who was martyred on 18th of June 1858. Her stories of valor and resistance against the British still continue to fill everyone's heart with immense pride and gratitude.
मैं लक्ष्मीबाई हूँ, झांसी की रानी. झांसी को अंग्रेजों के हाथों में नहीं जाने दूंगी.
Rani Lakshmibai was born as Manikarnika Tambe on the 16th of November 1835. Her father shifted to Bithur, where she grew up and came in close contact with Nana Sahib, Tantya Tope and Rao Sahib. She was affectionately called Manu by her parents and Chabili by the Peshwa. Lakshmibai received traditional education and welding of small arms. Beautiful, intelligent, energetic and courageous, she was married to Maharaja Gangadhar Rao of Jhansi in 1842.
A magnetic personality, Lakshmibai was endowed with high administrative caliber. Her only male child died in infancy, and her husband passed away on 21st of November 1853, nominating Lakshmibai as regent of his adopted son Damodar Rao. But she was not permitted by the British authorities to adopt a successor. Her territory was annexed under the Dalhousie's Doctrine of Lapse on 27th of February 1854.
Rani Lakshmibai's appeals to the British went in vain. When the First War of Independence started in 1857, Rani Lakshmibai was drawn into it and became the sole authority in her region. After the massacre of the British at Jokhan Bagh by the sepoys on the 8th of June 1857 and their departure for Delhi, the Rani assumed the reins of government and successfully met the challenges posed to her.
On being attacked by British General Hugh Rose on 20th of March 1858, she heroically defended Jhansi for 2 weeks and eventually escaped to Kalpi on horseback along with her son. Later she joined Tantya Tope and Rao Sahib, but their combined forces were defeated by the British. Lakshmibai then reached Gwalior and surprised the British by capturing Gwalior.
When Sir Hugh Rose renewed the British attack on the Gwalior fort, the Rani fought to the finish. Swords in both the hands and the reins of the horse in her mouth, she died a glorious death in the thick of the battle on 18th of June 1858.
All India Radio News salutes the valor and love for the motherland of legend of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmibai.
On the 18th of June 1946, freedom fighter Ram Manohar Lohia lit the torch of the last phase of the freedom movement against the Portuguese in Goa. Lohia openly defied the government orders against holding a public meeting at Margao and rebuked Captain Fortunato Miranda, the administrator of the district. While initiating the civil disobedience movement in Goa, Lohia wrote an open letter to the Goans. He made it clear that the aim of the movement was to win civil liberties, but that the methods to be followed were those of mass awakening.
Lohia invoked the Indians to help the Goan brethren in their fight for liberties. The Congress Working Committee at Wardha passed a resolution and to support the Goans in their struggle for the restoration of civil liberties. But the Portuguese rulers, without realizing the signs of the time, called the civil disobedience movement as Movimento da Rua, meaning roadside agitation. However, this agitation spread across the state. Goa, Daman and Diu were liberated in 1956 after 451 years of Portuguese subjugation, thereby wiping off the last colonial vestige from the Indian soil.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia will lead the yoga celebrations from the Statue of Unity in Kevadia, Gujarat on the occasion of the 8th International Day of Yoga on coming Tuesday. In the spirit of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 iconic sites have been selected for observing this year's International Day of Yoga. Promoting the healthy habit of practicing yoga regularly, Dr. Mandavia in a message today stated that in order to avoid illness and receive happiness, it is very important to focus on wellness, for which everyone should make yoga a part of their lives.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के प्रयासों से यूनाइटेड नेशन ने 21 जून को योग दिन घोषित किया है। भारत के योग को वैश्विक मान्यता मिली है, ये हमारे लिए गौरव की बात है। इस वर्ष भी सारी दुनिया 21 जून को योग दिन के रूप में मनाएंगे। देश जब आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा है, उस अवसर पर समग्र देश में योगा कार्यक्रम का आयोजन किया जा रहा है। योग मन और शरीर को जोड़ता है और इसलिए मैं सभी को आग्रह करता हूँ कि योगा दिन के अवसर पर आप जहाँ हो वहाँ योगा कार्यक्रम में जुड़िए। आइए सब लोग योग करिए, स्वस्थ रहिए, निरोगी रहिए।
The Indian Embassy in Beijing organized the International Day of Yoga celebrations at the India House, which was attended by Indian diaspora, Chinese yoga enthusiasts and people from other nationalities, including diplomats in Beijing. India's ambassador to China, Pradeep Kumar Rawat, and Deputy Ambassador Dr. Aquino Vimal took part in the event. Ambassador Rawat said COVID is time killer and yoga is COVID killer, as he highlighted the essentiality of yoga in the pandemic times.
Here in China, yoga is enjoying surging popularity as well. Our friends who have gathered here and connected with us virtually are the prime example of this.
The Indian women's hockey team defeated Argentina in FIH Women's Hockey Pro League tournament by 4 goals to 3. In the stipulated time, both the teams scored 3 goals each, but in the shootout, India struck 2 goals to 1. The first match was played at Rotterdam in the Netherlands. The second match is scheduled for tomorrow at the same venue. India's last man standing HS Prannoy lost to China's Zhao Chunpeng in straight sets 21-16, 21-15 in the semi-final of Indonesia Open 2022 today. Now let us have a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. National capital Delhi is expected to have a generally cloudy sky with the temperature hovering between 25 and 34 degrees. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Chennai will have a thunderstorm with rain. Srinagar and Jammu will have thunderstorm with rain. Leh is expected to have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in Gujarat Gaurav Abhiyan program at Vadodara, inaugurates and lays foundation stones of development projects worth over 21,000 crore rupees. Today, India is making plans and taking decisions, keeping in mind the needs and aspirations of women, says Prime Minister. Stresses rapid development and empowerment of women is synonymous with rapid development of 21st century India. Agniveers to get 10% reservation in Defence Ministry's job vacancies and in Central Armed Police Forces and Assam Rifles. Polio immunization 2022 to begin from tomorrow in 11 states and union territories. Flood situation in Assam stays grim. Prime Minister assures all support. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar chairs Parliamentary Consultative Committee meeting on Sri Lanka, says there was unanimous support to stand with our neighbour in this difficult time. India and European Union relaunch negotiations for India-EU Free Trade Agreement after over 8 years. 2 people killed and several trapped in a Gurudwara in Afghanistan after 2 blasts rocked Kabul this morning. New Delhi expresses concern, says closely monitoring the situation. Indian women's hockey team beats Argentina 4-3 in FIH Women's Hockey Pro League tournament at Rotterdam. And in Indonesia Open Super Badminton Tournament semi-final match, India's HS Prannoy loses to China's Zhao Chunpeng 16-21, 15-21. And with that, We end the evening news. Good night.